Hello everybody. So this video is entitled Him Stock, My Decision. Thesis broken. Is the thesis broken? Let's go. So first of all, let's talk about the price action. It's holding up pretty well. If you remember the Friday night bottom when it dropped in after hours, if you had after hours trading on your broker, it dropped to $19.30. And we are actually at 19.03. So technically, we were down 15% after hours. We're down 17% now. So it's technically only down 2% compared to the after-hour price action on Friday night. So I would argue it's holding up pretty well. And this is kind of what I was thinking would happen, hoping would happen, is big dump at the open, like it usually is, big gap at the open, and then spend all day riding it back up. We're up 16% compared to the low of this morning. And that's because, of course, panic happened this morning. Why did panic happen this morning? Well, unfortunately for him, the placement of the Super Bowl ad when it aired, it aired, and I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but the ad, from what I understand, aired like 5 minutes before the end of the game or something like that. And this was a game where one team was going to win, like one team was clearly winning. So it's likely that half the country stopped watching the game when the ad of him's aired. And so I don't know if they got a discount for that. I don't really know how it works. But it seems to me like if they would have been much better off just playing the ad at the beginning of the show, not at the end of the show, especially given the imbalance in the results of that game. I would have to think a lot of people weren't watching the game because it aired at the very end. So that was one problem. The other problem, of course, the news of the lawsuit. Novo dropped the lawsuit. I think this is actually a positive development because they're arguing about the patent, and so that will be very interesting. And the last thing, and this is more of a throughout the day type thing, is we had a lot of rating downgrades from various analysts all over the place. You know, now they're like saying, oh, it's going to go to $12, it's going to go to $15. Analysts, of course, are always late. That is what they are. They wait for a price to move, and once the price moves, it's too far away from their price target, so they have to lower their price target. At least that's the way it feels, right? So let's go with, of course, the question. My decision, surprise, surprise. People who know me and who know this channel will not be surprised. My decision is I'm sticking with HIMS. I'm not adding, I'm not selling. I'm just sitting and waiting like I know how to do so well. Like I did with Tesla when we had the whole Tesla scare and Tesla dropped to 130 and people were calling Tesla to 69, right? Like I already sat with HIMS the last time when there was a political issue and the stock had dropped to $9. I'm just sitting and waiting. This is a long-term hold. This is a 2030 and beyond story for me. I'm not a trader. I'm not smart enough to time the market. Now, you will see on X people so smart telling you, oh, I timed the top, I'm buying it back, I timed the market, I'm really, really good. You know, but then, you know, sometimes they don't really, you know, they don't really show. Anyways, I don't know. The point is, you know, those who sold at $20 on Friday, hoping to buy back at 12 today or 12 later, will they be able to? Is it going to happen? It doesn't seem like it's happening. It's pretty risky if you ask me. And again, if we ever were to get to $15 or $12, then the whole internet will be telling you $5 is next, right? They'll be screaming $5 is next, and you'll probably have even more bearishness if the price drops further. And so, will you want to buy? Will you be willing to buy? So that's why I'm not a trader. I'm a long-term holder. And to me, the long-term thesis of this company is not broken. As you know, on this channel, I started covering this stock at $6. And my cost basis is still below 10. And I'm just fine riding the roller coaster. And you know what? I know some people are upset. They got at 30. They got at 40. But if the long-term thesis plays out, 40 is going to be the new $4, right? If a long-term thesis plays out and this stock goes to 150, well, you look very smart if you held it at 40, right? It's just that people have so many emotions, and HIMS, somehow from the moment I started covering it to now HIMS is a mainstream stock. When I covered this stock, it was not mainstream at the very beginning. So anyways, let's talk about the facts. Let's talk about Novo. I think Novo going ahead with the lawsuit is pretty bullish because they are putting their neck out, if I may say it like that. They are testing the patent. And they are testing the compounding laws. So by going to court, I would argue Novo is taking a risk. So they're taking a risk of us actually finding out what is scale compounding, what is mass compounding, how much compounding is actually allowed, and there's a risk that the court rules in favor of HIMS. Keep in mind, and again, always keep in mind, what is the present value of that for Novo if actually the court were to rule in front of HIMS. And if they were to win, if Novo was to win, then we would be losing semaglutide type GLP-1s. And then, this is what I've said multiple times, who cares? Who cares? Because this market will likely belong to Lilly towards year-end 2026, because Lilly has a much better product coming up, which is called retatrutide, which a lot of people are already on, which is already trending on social media. And of course, retatrutide itself is also a peptide, right? It's also a peptide. And it seems like Lilly is going to take over a lot of that market because there is a trial going on for a weight loss drug that is leaps and bounds ahead of semaglutide, liraglutide, etc. And so already, as the market is already trending towards tirzepatide, it's likely to be even worse when the market starts moving towards retatrutide. And metformin, in my view, if you look at weight loss, metformin will always remain. Metformin also can be sold, as a secondary use for longevity. Of course, it's off-label, right? Metformin is off-label if you prescribe it for weight loss. It's also off-label if you prescribe it for longevity. But you could have a combo drug, metabolism / weight loss / longevity together with metformin. I think the fact that there is a lawsuit on compounded GLP-1s may push HIMS to just explore metformin and see what they can do with metformin, bupropion, customized pills. There's a lot of business to be done with metformin. So, and of course, metformin is in the public domain. Anybody can do it. Like I said, I doubt much liraglutide, semaglutide, tirzepatide will be sold after retatrutide is introduced, unless you're always going to have some folks who want to get it because of either the placebo effect of a GLP-1 or the clout that it gives you to have GLP-1. We know celebrities brag about being on GLP-1s. Maybe people will get a liraglutide just because it's a GLP-1 and they want to be on a GLP-1 and say they are on a GLP-1 because it's becoming trendy, right? There's billboards for it all over. It's a trendy drug. Crazy to think that a drug could be trendy, but it is. If you saw the Super Bowl ads, you know how trendy GLP-1s actually are. Anyways, more of a hot take for me, and this is something very consistent since the history of the channel. I know a lot of people love leadership, and they talk about the leadership field, and most people are micro, and there's a lot of romance associated with leadership, and great leaders do this, great leaders do that. In my view, leadership is less important than the business model. It's less important than the business model. You may remember Kathy Wood reminded me of this in her update for the last Friday crash. She was talking about how Jeff Bezos, caused a lot of market turmoil when he was asked if he even knew how to spell profit by an analyst. And he spelled it with a mistake. Profit. He spelled it with a mistake, saying Jeff Bezos doesn't know profit. And so Amazon, of course, dropped like crazy because he was like, I don't know profit, right? So that was an example of a poor leadership decision. They made a mistake. HIMS made a mistake with their oral launch. And the mistake, quite frankly, the mistake was the same ingredient as. That was the bigger mistake of the launch. I don't know how they let that slide in the marketing team. You can argue whether the launch was an actual mistake or not, but the fact that they left that same ingredient as tagline, even though they had been dinged by the FDA for it, that was a mistake. This is not the first time this CEO makes mistake. Jeff Bezos did quite a few mistakes. If you look at Dudum, right? So maybe this mistake is not on him, or is it on him? I don't know. But then you remember the politics thing. Like a lot of people were shorting the stock and selling the stock out of political things, and of course. Dudum stopped talking politics, and then we went back to normal on the stock, right? So it's a young management team. What can I tell you? And leaders make mistake. How many mistakes did Elon make? Elon done quite a bit of blunders, and so many of his CEOs do that. As Buffett always says, build a business when even a fool can run, because eventually one will. And I think this is what Hims is building. Hims is building a business when even a fool can run. Steve Ballmer did not kill Microsoft. Go look at any of the presentations from Steve Ballmer back in the 2000s. Epic blunders, blunder after blunder after blunder. That didn't kill Microsoft. They made a mistake. As a result of that, the shorts are having a field day. As somebody told me on the Patreon today, we're discussing this. I made a post this morning about Hims. It was like, let the shorts have their day in the sun. Let the shorts make some money. And I think he's entirely right. Yeah, we should let the shorts have their day in the sun. Okay, shorts, you won that one. Go ahead, close your short position. You made some money. You won. Okay, but we are long-term shareholders. I'm a long-term shareholder, certainly. I certainly don't care that the stock is trading at 19 right now. It doesn't faze me. Anyways, I would like now, Mr. Market, to entirely write down the weight loss, specifically GLP-1s. I mean, not weight loss. I mean GLP-1 here. I want the market to start looking at Hims without GLP-1s. What is the value of Hims without GLP-1s whatsoever? Because this is likely the scenario in late 2026 for every company but Lilly, right? So let's just write it off altogether. No more GLP-1s. I would argue Hims is still too cheap at $19, even if we remove all GLP-1s. To the best of my ability to calculate, for full year of 2025, in my view, they were going to be less than 30% on weight loss sales. But they don't tell you which is liraglutide, which is compounded semaglutide, which is metformin, which is oral weight loss, metformin is base pill. They don't really tell you. So it's tough to really know how much it is. I think the market is overthinking it and thinking this business is just GLP-1. This business is way less than a third GLP-1, in my view. So think about that, right? It's down 70% or 65% from the peak for less than a third of the business. This is less than a third of the business. This business still sells a lot of what I call the former blockbuster drugs. This business was built on easy access to former blockbuster drugs. So, of course, we had ED, sildenafil, which is Viagra, monoxidil, which is Rogaine, right? That was a former blockbuster. This was a blockbuster of the 90s off patent. Blockbuster of the 90s off patent. This was a blockbuster, from what I remember, the 80s, big blockbuster in the 80s off patent. And then SSRI, huge blockbuster in the anxiety. That was more of the early 2000s. They've been able to make blockbuster drugs accessible. And one day, too, by the way, semaglutide will fall off patent, and that will be part of the business at some point, no doubt. But for now, it's still on the patent. So for now, the rent seekers have to debate whether compounding is allowed or not. And they will debate it, and it will take years. But in my view, they are still growing. They are a purveyor of blockbuster drugs and blockbuster medicines. And blockbuster tests and blockbuster prescriptions. This is what Hims is. Labs testing, cancer testing, that's a revolutionary offering. I can't wait to hear what they have to say on the call. And in the short run, we may get an overhang on the stock, right? We get this. So, like I said, just spending just a second talking about the lawsuit. So they're suing for the patent. They're saying they infringed on the patent, and they want HIMSS to stop marketing and selling compounded GLP-1, whether it's the microdosage, the weekly injection, or the daily oral. The daily oral they already stopped selling. And they're saying that HIMSS infringed on the patent. And so they want damages, probably some royalty or some share of their sales, and attorney fees, and they want a jury trial. So I think the jury trial is actually good for HIMSS because you bet that drug affordability is going to play a role in that, and you bet they're going to talk about compounding. And in my view, HIMSS, well, I hope, but from the calls I'm getting that they were documenting really, really good, taking excellent notes whenever they prescribe a compounded GLP-1 to a patient. Like you probably would have had to take excellent notes in order to justify why that patient actually needed the compounded drugs. Maybe the lawsuit will end up being something like, okay, well, out of all of the prescriptions for compounded GLP-1 that she gave, maybe only 80% of them qualified, were justified medically, and another 20% weren't. So you got to pay a fee, you got to pay damages for 20% that didn't qualify. Something like that. We could get clarity on compounding, and especially what's the limit. What is mass compounding? This is clarity we could get. We could get clarity on peptides. This is something a lot of people more experts in the field of rent-seeking than I am were saying. They were saying that Novo is putting the patent to the test. And people could argue that indeed GLP-1s naturally occur in the stomach. Should you be able to modify them slightly in order to patent them? That's I think a big question. And this is going to take a lot of time. If HIMSS is unhappy with whatever judgment, they will appeal. I'm sure if HIMSS seems to be winning, Novo will have plenty of tactics to expand the time that it takes to go to that lawsuit. You remember the whole delay depose movement in the insurance industry that led to a lot of mishaps for UNH. So this is going to take years. We just ripped off the Band-Aid. Boom. There's going to be a lawsuit. It's going to be a small overhang on the stock or a big overhang. I don't know. The point is we probably have quite a few months, maybe a year or two, where the stock's going to be somewhat cheap and we can accumulate if you still believe in the long-term thesis, which I entirely do. And let me conclude on the long-term thesis. The long-term thesis is this. HIMSS is a marketing machine. Unlike the mom-and-pop doctor or the local hospital or the local insurance who doesn't do marketing, who has UX, UI from 2005 that has never been updated, this is not HIMSS. HIMSS is a marketing machine. Marketing it goes beyond just the commercial. Marketing is about making the app enjoyable to use. Have you ever tried to go for your insurance company and look at what is covered, what is not? You got to type a code. It's a pain to use. It's not enjoyable. HIMSS has created an app on which people are happy to go to daily. They've created an experience where people are happy. Just to show you again, I mean, this is so compelling. You go on their website, 20% off orders of 500 or more. Claim now. It just makes you want to buy. The way everything is designed makes you want to buy. Lose weight from $69 a month. What is that, right? That's their oral weight loss. That's the metformin-based pills. I think a lot of people are going to be on metformin weight loss pills. They are the powerhouse in the field. They're the powerhouse in the field. They do everything in this field. Also, this could be a case of them playing chess because, you see, let's assume that the law rules in favor of Novo and that all compounding is deemed illegal. Who is the best suited company to handle that? Well, it's HIMSS. They have the most advanced side businesses out there. Many people who compete with HIMSS on the GLP-1s only do GLP-1s or almost only do GLP-1s. HIMSS does much more. The long-term thesis of HIMSS is really a digital doctor and a digital pharmacy bundled into one single price without insurance. And it is because there is no insurance that HIMSS is able to move so fast and iterate so fast. HIMSS is obviously threatening a giant industry, and they really showed their teeth last Thursday when they launched $49 oral pill, showing that they have the capability to do it. They're threatening a giant industry, but here's the problem: Big Pharma thinks they're only threatening weight loss. Hims is threatening much, 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 much more than weight loss. It's a much bigger threat than weight loss. It's a threat to the entire healthcare sector. It's a threat to the entire insurance sector. People realizing that rent-seeking is not working out for them, that they want a customer-centric company. They don't want to be playing ping-pong with doctors. They don't want to have to go see a doctor, pay $250 to get the labs, then pay thousands for the labs, and then pay another $250 to see the results of their lab or to have a doctor explain the results of their lab. They want to have access to doctors on demand, just like they have access to music on demand with Spotify. That's the same thing, in my view. So, and I'll conclude with valuation. Of course, I need to update the forward growth number. I mean, I don't even know if I need to be honest. It's probably a little high now. Probably a little high. They're probably not going to grow 47% next 12 months. Maybe they're going to grow 20%. But just for the sake of comparison with before this drama, with the way I've calculated the value of this company before this drama, this is now back to the cheapest level the stock has ever been. The stock is at a 0.06. This is the same valuation now than the valuation I was having on this stock 3 years ago when it was trading at $5 and I was interested in it. The only thing that has changed is the number of eyeballs looking at this stock. Now, even CNBC this morning was talking about this stock. Even Cathie Wood was talking about this stock. Everybody's talking about Hims. And so the bears are so loud. And you know, the bears are having their day in the sun. Congratulations, but bears in general are short-term investors. They are short-term investors. I am a long-term investor. This is a long-term hold for me, and I intend on Hims remaining a cornerstone of my portfolio. So good for you, Hims. You know, you made a small mistake by leaving that tagline on Thursday night. It sucks, but for the long-term shareholder, to me, probably not a big deal in my view. And we'll know in a few years what's going to happen with the GLP, with a compounding Novo suit. We'll know in a few years. So anyways, this was obviously not financial advice, not investment advice. This is a roller coaster. This is entertainment. If you want to ride this stock, it's to entertain yourself. It's a roller coaster. No financial advice. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.